Hey folks, in this video we're going to be talking about the strat, the different variations that you have with it, how you can use it, etc. I have made one video on this topic, and if you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend that you do watch that video after you watch this one. I'll even leave a link to that video in the video description below, okay? So for starters, we're going to go over the different variations of it, what you want to see, okay? So we're going to start with what's called a number 2 candle. Okay, I repeat, that is a number 2 candle. So a number 2 candle, for example, would be something like this. We understand, okay, when price is in an upswing, what does it do? It puts in a swing low and then price starts to curl up. Okay, so follow my cursor closely. Every single price swing on this chart originates from what? A swing low. So right here, for example, swing low, it's curling up. Swing low, it's curling up. Swing low, it's curling up. Every single swing you see on the chart, it originates from a price swing like this. What a number 2 candle is once you're in that upswing, it has a strong close above the previous candle high like this. So you see how this candle, it opens up right here. Follow my cursor. I'm on a 4-hour chart. You see how this candle opens up right here? You see how it has like this little pullback, but then it comes up. It clears that high. This is a level of resistance. All right, keep this in mind, folks. This is a level of resistance. Price breaks above that resistance. See how it closed above it? It cleared it. And it closed right there. See this candle? That's where it closes. You notice that? So whenever you see this type of scenario where price is in a upswing, right? Swing low's been put in. It's curling up now. And you see something like this, what that is a number 2 candle, or a bullish 2. It's a bullish 2. Okay. And in simplest terms, it's indicating to you that it's still strong. There's no indication of weakness. There's no indication of a reversal at the current moment, and that it potentially has legs, okay? Because here's how I approach the markets. I'm listening to the chart. I'm not playing the prediction game, okay? That's a loser's game. You want to listen to the price action, and you want price to tell you, like, when it's ready to actually have a reversal. And when I see something like this, it's telling me, hey, we had resistance here, and we cleared that. We crushed that resistance. It was annihilated. It stood no chance, right? It crushed it, okay? What happens right here? Follow my cursor. The very next candle. This candle opens, look, right there. And then it closes. We get into this candle. What is that right there? Okay, what is this candle right here? That's another number 2 candle, folks. Because they did the same thing. Look, it's a bullish 2. You see that high right there? Look at my cursor. That's resistance. Okay, we had this previous resistance, right? We had that previous resistance right there. It closed above it, making it a strong bullish 2. This candle did the same exact thing. Sure had like a little gap. That's fine. But look what it does. And you notice what it also does with this? I want you to notice something about that. You'll find this scenario a lot. It reclaims its resistance. I'm sure you all have heard that, or not all of you, but if you've been in the game for a while, you probably heard the saying, the ceiling becomes the floor, right? The ceiling becomes the floor, resistance becomes support. And you see how it cleared the high of that previous candle? That's a pivot point. So we have a strong close right there. That was a strong number 2 candle, bullish number 2 candle. And then the very next candle opens, boom, it goes crazy. It goes crazy. It ramps up, really big expansion higher. And you see how it cleared that high? By a long shot, strong number 2 candle. Again, it does it again, folks. Okay? No indication of weakness, just like there was no indication of weakness here. It cleared previous resistance. It did the same exact thing. The same exact thing. Goes ballistic. Okay? So these are what we call number 2 candles, or in this case, bullish number 2 candles with the strat. Okay, it's in an upswing. All right, we put in the swing low, it's in the upswing. And these right here, bullish 2. Right here, bullish 2. What's this one right here? Is that a bullish 2? You got it. It's a bullish 2. Why? Because the same process. Mark out this high. Mark out the previous candle high, because that opens and then it closes right here into 22. If you see the bottom of my screen, little black box bottom of my screen, see right there, opens at 18, closes at 22. You notice how it came up and you see how it closed strong above that. You notice that? You notice how that happens right there? You see? That makes that a strong, bullish number 2 candle. Again, all 3 of these candles have been strong number 2 candles. So it's simply indicating to you that price is still strong. It's indicating to you that these previous levels of resistance, aka the highs of these candles, are not being respected as resistance. Okay, the trend's bullish. It's in an upswing. The tide is strong. It is bullish. And your best bet is to flow with it. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to predict the absolute high like an amateur. No, you listen to price. And you only look for a short deal. You only would switch and pivot to a short deal once there's actually something on that chart that is indicating to you that it is ready, that it is ready to have that change. That brings us to this. See this right here? It's kind of hard to see. It's kind of hard to see, but it's actually another strong number 2 candle. If you like zoom in, you'll see like you have this high. Look at my cursor. See how that barely closed above it? So technically, even though it doesn't got nearly as much conviction as the previous 2 that we talked about, that's actually another strong number 2 candle right there. A bullish number 2 candle. So it's still, even right there, you know, from 2 to 6 o'clock, there's still no indication that this right here is ready to have any type of reversal in the opposing direction. None. So you would stick with it. Okay. Now, what do you think you can do inside here, folks? When you see this stuff happening, like I pointed out to you several examples of a strong number 2 candle right here. And we're going to go over the other variations here in a moment, you know, so just sit tight because I'm going to be giving you several different variations and how to use these variations going forward. Okay. But like right now, my focus just kind of wants to be on demonstrating what they are, like the different variations of the strat are. Okay. That's what I want to do. And then we'll kind of talk about how you can actually use them in the marketplace. Okay. So strong number 2, strong number 2, strong number 2, strong number 2. So you got to think about it like this, like what? That's a 4 hours in there, 4 hours in there, 4 hours in there, 4 hours in there of opportunity where price has been bullish, and it's telling you it's bullish. You're not predicting, it's telling you it's bullish. You see what I'm getting at? Okay. And I see the time where I know it's a little bit of a lot of folks aren't trading at that time, but like we're going to go over other stuff. Okay. The same concept applies. Okay. Now here's what we're going to go over next. Cause we talked about the bullish scenario, right? The bullish, just strong number 2 candles are in that upswing. Now what I want to talk about is when price is ready to have a move in the opposite direction. There's a couple different variations to that you can look for. What we have right here is something a little bit different, right? What happens here? If you look closely, you notice that? So you notice how price took out that high, but unlike the previous examples where price would clear the high, like it cleared that high right there, it cleared that high right there, closed above it closed above it right there. It did that all the way up. Something different happened here, right? It came up, it tried to clear that buy side, and then it said, nope, we ain't doing it. We ain't doing it. and it gets folded. Look at that. It gets absolutely folded. And you notice it does the opposite. It does the opposite, folks. Look. Now, pay very close attention. I'm about to give you some gold here. All right, pay very close attention. Because you notice how like these highs can they can serve as levels of support. These are what we call pivot points. Just like it closed above that, it's a pivot point. Okay. Just like it did right here, it's a pivot point. Hence the name pivot. It's where it pivot finds support off of it. You see where I'm getting at? It don't always come back to retest it. And you could still look for bullish scenarios, even like on other plays or other levels of support that aren't the pivot. But I'm just pointing out to you, if you want to be a little bit more selective about where to frame your entries off of, I'm giving you something here. Look what happens. So price is telling you that it doesn't want to move higher. It tried, it couldn't. You're not predicting anything. You were literally not predicting anything. Price did not want to move higher. It tried and it failed. And it closed beneath that low where my cursor is pointing. Look at my cursor. It closed beneath that. That candle opens up at 6 o'clock and it closes at 10 o'clock. That's a bearish signature, folks. Now, what we call this type of signature, whenever this happens, this is a number 3 candle. Okay, it is a bearish 3 candle. And what a bearish 3 candle indicates is continuation lower. Okay, so we have it taking out that high right here. Think of that as fuel. Think of that liquidity, because there's liquidity above and below every single candle, and liquidity is fuel for price. It takes that and it snaps this support in half, aka your pivot point. Okay, so now we go into 10 o'clock. This candle was closed, and then that gives you a bias to work with. You like at this point, you know the tide has changed, and you can work with that tide. Okay, so you can see how, okay, I know I have resistance here that I can use. All right, let's go in here, because this opens at 10, that closes at 2. I want you to pay close attention to what happens here. Look what happens here, folks. Remember, that closed at 10 o'clock, folks. 10 o'clock, it does that. So you have the 4 hour telling you, hey, we're ready for that move lower. That sets the bias for today, on this particular day. That literally set the bias. It already grabbed all this liquidity up here. It closed strong through that pivot. Now your resistance. Look what happens. And you see how it comes up in here. And you see how it reclaims it as resistance. And then it sells off. So now I still got a couple other other variations I want to go over here. But now what I'm doing with this example here, folks, is I'm showing you another approach that you can use to actually execute on these setups. Because it's one thing, you got to understand what a number 2 candle is, what a number 3 candle is, what a failed 2 is. But then how do you profit off of it, right? How do you actually profit off of that information? And this is what I'm teaching you here. So whenever you see that happen, you can see how you have resistance. You have resistance here because that was the previous pivot. Let me slow down. Let me rewind. Let me refresh your memory. Okay. So you can see how you have resistance here, and you see how it comes up into that. You could frame a short off that, because you remember it didn't respect it as a level of support. If it respected it as a level of support, it wouldn't have crushed it like that. It wouldn't have snapped it in half like that. You see? So once it returns to that, what you can then do is you can then go in there and then you can look for a short off that level of resistance in there. You see? Once it returns to it. Okay. So you see how it ends up pulling back into it. It pulls back into it, into that range, and then it has a really nice leg lower. Sure, it doesn't come back down into the lows all the way down here, but that's fine. That's still plenty of opportunity to capitalize on, to profit on, because you had the resistance, you had the number 3, and it gives you a really nice leg lower as a result. So I mean, if you're scalping or you're day trading, I mean, that big leg in there is plenty of opportunity to get a setup on. So now I want to talk about a couple different examples, and with these examples, this is going to be with failed twos. All right, so we talked about what a strong number 2 candle is. Okay, and by the way, when I say like a strong bullish number 2 candle, you know, you would just reverse that for a bearish scenario. And yeah, we can go over that example too, but I think y'all can put it together, like what a strong number 2 bearish candle would be. It's the same thing as the bullish, just reverse. And we talked about the number 3 candle as well and how you can use that. Now what I'm going to show you here is we're going to go over a couple different examples of like failed twos. All right, so what failed twos indicate are like upcoming reversals. Like failed twos are my bread and butter. I love failed twos. All right, I absolutely eat off failed twos, folks. I absolutely love them. Oh, because like, and that's just because like I've always been more of a reversal trader. That's just what fits me. Some people like continuations and playing breakouts. I've never been a breakout type of trader. That's just not what fits me. I love reversals. That's what I excel at. So failed twos, like they completely change the game when it comes to reversals. All right. So we're going to go over something from a couple deals here from Friday. All right. So this is plugged inside my mentorship chat, the 1% club. And, not to get too much into a little sales pitch, just to give the reminder for those folks that do want to be a part of the mentorship chat, I'm going to be opening up some spots in May, right? So in May. So if you want to be a part of like the live streams that I do, because I do daily live streams, I have a gigantic video lesson library with in detail information. I plug all this stuff beforehand before it actually happens, so you can learn alongside us. Okay, so if you want like, and then of course I do one-on-one help, so we can hop on a call and kind of work through your issues. If that's something that you're interested in, there's going to be a link in the video description, and there's going to be a link in the I'll put one in the comments below. Okay, but let's get into the failed two. And let's talk about this example in NASDAQ from Friday, okay? And why I figured that this thing was going to ramp up like this. So there was a couple different things happening. We had another strong number 2 candle. That's not what I'm going to put a lot of focus on in this example, but it did frame my setup on Friday as well, or it helped frame it. Because I had, again, look, pay very close attention here. You see that strong number 2 candle from 6 to 10? See how it cleared that high? There's your pivot point. Remember what I said a second ago, folks? Do you remember what I said a second ago about the pivot point? Because that's resistance. You can't forget, like, these highs above these candles, these lows below these candles, support and resistance. They're short-term levels of support and resistance. So now, like, whenever I have something like this happen where price has or in this case, a strong number 2 candle, bullish number 2 candle above a high, that now becomes the short-term level of support for me. That's what I call my pivot point. Okay, that happens in the 10. And then same thing right here. You see, like right here, that 8 o'clock candle going into 9, 8 o'clock going into 9 has a strong close as well. I want you to notice what happens. Same thing. See how it reclaims that pivot of support? It closed above it, indicating strength. Has like a little light pull back into the pivot, ramps up off the pivot. Same process, folks. But let's get into, because let's get into the failed 2 scenario. So keep in mind, yeah, I had the higher time frame bullish. I just illustrated that, like the 4 hour was bullish, the 1 hour had a bullish strong number 2 candle. What does a failed 2 look like? Here's what a failed 2 looks like. A failed 2 is whenever price takes out a previous candle low like this. See that? You see how price took out that candle low? And it took out this low too. Does it have to take out a low like this down here as well to be considered a failed 2? It doesn't, but it needs to fail to displace through a previous candle low. Obviously, like the more liquidity it has, the better. But a failed 2 is whenever price comes down, takes out a previous candle low like this, and it fails to displace. So you see how it opens up, follow my cursor. It opens up right here. It comes down, it takes that liquidity, and it fails to displace. For it to also be considered a failed 2, it can't take out the previous candle high. Like for example, it can't do something like this. It can't take out these lows and then come up and take out that high. That wouldn't be a failed 2. It's a failed 2 when it takes out this liquidity and it leaves this intact up above. So it fails to displace like that, going into 10-15. Okay. So what a failed 2 indicates is a upcoming reversal. All right. So what you'll do next is you'll go inside there. You'll go inside there and you will hunt for a shift in market structure. Let me repeat this again. This is why I love failed 2s as a reversal trader, because a failed 2 indicates a reversal, but it's what happens inside the failed 2 that is important. Inside the failed 2, you need to see a shift. Okay, so this is, now get your notepad out, because I'm using a 15-minute, but I understand not everybody is going to execute on the 1-minute chart. So get your notepad out, because I'm going to give you a few different time frames. If you are playing a 15-minute failed 2, you want to hunt for a 1-minute shift with that 15-minute failed 2 inside the 15-minute failed 2. If you are utilizing a 1-hour failed 2, so it would be the same signature, but on a 1-hour chart, you're going to hunt for a 5-minute market structure shift inside a 1-hour failed 2. If you are utilizing a 4-hour failed 2, the same signature, but on a 4-hour, you would look for a 15-minute, you would look for a 15-minute shift inside that failed 2. If you are doing this on the daily chart and you see this type of signature, this failed 2 on a daily chart, you would look for a 1-hour shift. And then with the weekly failed 2, a 4-hour shift. Okay, I happen to be a scalper, so this is my bread and butter. I look for 15-minute failed 2s like this, and then I go inside the 15-minute failed 2 and I hunt for a 1-minute shift. So into 10-15 it closes. So here's what I do next. If that closes at 10-15, here's 10-15. So right here is 10-15. Look at my cursor. I'm on a 1-minute chart now. We have that storyline. Do I have a 1-minute shift inside that 15-minute failed 2? I do. Look at this, because with a shift, I need to see I need to see at least one fair value gap. I got several in there. If you don't know what a fair value gap is, I have a video on it on my channel. Just search fair value gaps. But in short, you see how the high of that first candle and the bottom of that third candle don't touch, and it leaves nothing but a body in there? That's a fair value gap. And I also need to see a strong close above a short-term high. Right there, I got it. So into 10-15, folks, I have a confirmed 1-minute shift inside, this is an important point, inside the 15-minute failed 2. That's the big thing here. It's inside the 15-minute failed 2. Okay? So that makes for a good setup to get in for a reversal, because that's where most folks go wrong. Most folks, they give up on reversals because they get caught like in stop run or after like in fake out after fake out after fake out. But if you were just to implement failed 2s, it would completely change the game for you with what I'm teaching you here. Okay. And then of course I was bullish, because this is where you can piece it together with different variations. Because you remember a second ago, we talked about strong number 2 candles. And if you think back, and if you don't remember, just rewind the video. I was talking about a second ago about what? Strong number 2 up here. That I still had that strong number 2 up there. So there was nothing on the higher time frame saying that it was bearish. Look what happens. Comes up and it handles it. So what that does is it gives you a draw up above. You have a magnet, you have a draw up above. This indicates the reversal. You could take it up into that magnet. Same thing right here. Look, see it right here? Plugged in the chat, real time, no hindsight. Very clearly I've established like that's how I'm approaching it with my 1-to-1 buy setup confirmed. So a 15-minute failed too. And this one actually did come down a little bit more, but that's fine. You don't got to be perfect on the entry. I've said it a million times, folks. You don't got to be perfect. You need to be in the ballpark, and you just need to understand where price is ultimately drawn to. So you see what happens is same thing. Here's a failed two. You see that low that I have marked right there? Just follow my cursor where it's moving. You see how price took that low? And you notice how it failed to displace through that low right there. You notice that? That's a bullish failed two, is it not? With, like I just taught you in the previous example, it's a bullish failed two. So it took out that low and it failed to displace through that low going into 10 o'clock. Okay. So if we go in here, so remember 9:45 to 10, I want to see a 1 minute shift inside that failed two. 9:45 to 10. Do I have a fair value gap? Do I have a strong close? There's my fair value gap. Short-term high, strong close right there into 10 o'clock. I got it. And that's why you saw like in the chat, in the Discord chat that I plugged for my mentees right here, like that's why you see like that type of risk reward. And that's why I liked it, because it allows for that wiggle room. You see, I don't got to be perfect. I'm not a big risk reward trader. I like 1-to-1 because it allows for that imperfection. Okay. So you see it allows for it to, like, it comes down here, it digs a little bit deeper. But then it does eventually end up coming up in here, because same process. I had the strong number 2 candle up above. So I know it's bullish still. Like there's no indication on this chart telling me it's bearish. Okay. So I know it's still bullish. And that was like a low hanging objective PT, because Hive Day is a decent liquidity pool. I got my shift inside the failed 2, indicates the reversal. There's your reversal. Smooth as butter. And the thing about it, we talk about like the shifts. You can look for shifts inside of failed 2s. You can look for shifts inside of failed 2s, folks. But you could do the same thing with like number 3 candles. Like if price is like super bullish, for example, and it's been ramping up. Let me just kind of clear this up. And then let's say a little bit later on, you see something like that. You see like a big number 3 candle. I mean, that's like completely killed the momentum it had going towards it. And you can go in and look for shifts in there as well. But to keep it simple, you know, if you're focused on reversals, failed 2s are going to be your bread and butter. That's how I milk these. That's how I milk these futures markets daily, folks. Is with these failed 2s. It's so simple. It's so simple, but it's so effective. So you have, I repeat, you have number 2 candles, which in simplest terms, like it's in that upswing or it's in that downswing, and it's not showing any indication of weakness or strength, depending on whether it's the bullish or bearish scenario. And what I also taught you in this video is how you can use those pivots of the previous candle high. It won't always do it, obviously, right? Sometimes price will just be so strong. Like you see how it cleared that right there. Look at my cursor. And it just crushed that. It didn't even come back to that pivot. That'll happen. But in those cases also, you can use like those previous candle highs that it has a strong close above its levels of support to piggyback to tie it up. Okay. Number 3 candles indicate a continuation. All right. And then I have failed 2s, which indicate a reversal. Alrighty, folks. So hopefully like that cleared it up a bit more. And if it didn't, if you still have any further questions, or again, if you just want more videos on the strat specifically in upcoming videos, just once more again, comment below the strat and I'll make more videos on the strat. That's simple, folks. You know, if there's still demand, if there's still maybe a little bit more confusion, maybe just a couple more videos on, or any questions specifically about the strat or any video that you want me to address, feel free to comment below. Okay.